Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Friday, July 13th. Friday the 13th, 11:12 p.m. Mountain Time, 2018. You're looking at Baffin Island, a massive glacier calving near this fishing village, causing the locals to absolutely shit their pants. You're going to watch this small quote unquote tsunami come up here on the shore in just moments. Now, the locals are worried about a larger calving event than the one you're witnessing right here. You can see the drawback here, and then here comes the wave. And some of these houses are only 30 feet above the shore here. And you can see this is like a 5 to 10 foot swell coming through. Let's go back. And now watch the crack here. See these concerned people leaving? And T minus 3, 2, 1. And calving. You can actually watch it moving and then it falls down from the weight. Boom. So they're worried about an event where 5 to 10 times this calve off. It would create a 30 to 40 foot wave, which would literally explode this house. This blue house is in harm's way, as well as this entire facility here, which looks like some type of shipping or manufacturing here on the shoreline. Now, Baffin Island is a place where the last glacial advance began, and it's what we're seeing right now, where large glaciers beach themselves, last throughout the summer, and they begin the next glacial event. Let's get on with the update. We'll talk about it. Late snowpack signals a lost summer for Greenland shorebirds. Well, I thought the Arctic was melting. Greenland is up in the Arctic. Sanderlings, red nuts, and ruddy turnstones failed to breed this year along the Arctic's island's east coast due to record snow cover. Al, are you listening? His head just exploded. Yes, there is record snow. Millions of shorebirds descend on the Arctic each year to mate and raise chicks during the tundra's brief burst of summer. But that burst, which usually begins in mid-June, never arrived this year for eastern Greenland shorebirds. A set of ground nesting species. Instead, a record late snowpack, lingering into July, sealed the birds off from food and nesting sites. Without these key resources, avian migrants to the region will not reproduce in 2018, experts say. Now, breeding failures like this may grow more common because of the grand solar minimum some climate change models predict. Yes, it's true, increasing springtime snow in the songbird's nesting habitat absolutely predicted with the descent into the grand solar minimum. You are here, we're going to be in the solar minimum of 24 at least for the next year or two, which doesn't bode well for the timeline. You're looking at the yearly average sunspots since 1610. And you can clearly see that even with the mainstream prediction of cycle 25 being 30% weaker than 24, that puts us in just 7 years' time well back here into the Maunder minimum. It's my prediction that this cycle will be 50% diminished, which is a definite Maunder minimum onset in 7 years. The next decade is uncertain where we'll be, but it'll be very cold. Snowmelt usually allows shorebirds to begin nesting on the eastern shores, but in Greenland, up in the Arctic, Al, there is record snowpack currently in the middle of the summer here, almost off the charts, as we talked about 48 hours ago. You can see this line. It is unprecedented territory. On the multi-decadal, in this case, 40-year high, and exceeding it in summer. Those are the facts. Excessive heat and fire weather threats. Monsoon continues. Hot temperatures across the west coast are forecast through the weekend into next week. Breezy winds and the dry heat will produce critical fire weather threats for portions of the interior Pacific Northwest. Monsoon moisture in the Four Corners regions have put out all the fires. The National Forest has lifted the fire burn restrictions as of right now, actually midnight. In just 40 minutes, 43 minutes from now, fire burn restrictions in the Four Corners regions will be completely lifted. And that is a hella boom. Start prepping now. Shit's getting real. This would have been an unsurvivable event when a glacier crumbles on Rainier. Now, I've climbed up through here, up to the right, and if anyone was in this region, they'd be dead. This is the Ingram Glacier near Disappointment Cleaver. 11 a.m. Sunday, a large icefall incident littered debris in a popular climbing route on last Friday night. People saying that Rainier is waking up. No, it's falling down. This has nothing to do with volcanic activity and everything to do with record snowpack causing glaciers to fail in the summer sun. In fact, some of the largest glacial failure that any of the local guides have seen in their entire lifetime. I know these guys, they're telling the truth. So things are changing up here. Recent icefall on Mount Rainier has rattled seismographs and perhaps the nerves of a few climbers. After collapses on the Ingram Glacier beginning last Friday, ice blocks and debris have tumbled 1,000 feet and across the popular Disappointment Cleaver climbing route, according to Mount Rainier rangers. The large ice blocks tumbled in the middle of the night when no parties were on the route, thankfully. Now, this has nothing to do with seismicity. When I climbed Mount Rainier over a decade ago and I got to the summit, it was steaming up there and there were ice caves. So this has naturally been occurring, and that's when Rainier is quiet. When this baby starts swelling and erupting, we'll know it, and we'll be covering it here. Don't let the fearmongers get you. Now, ELECTROVERSE, this is one of our subs, and he sent me a link to his blog. Why don't you come over here and check it out, electroverse.net. Documenting Earth changes. He's got the latest Royce Spencer data up on the right here. Arctic sea ice thickness coming from Danish Meteorological Institute here. Greenland ice sheet totals. We just showed you these. This is the real-time data. Latest sunspot numbers through June 2018, real-time data. Latest KP index, real-time data. Latest volcanic activity with a real-time count of erupting volcanoes. 37 according to this blog, which is just this blog's count. So if you want to start using a count, there's one on the blog. Come check out the blog, and we're going to check out the most recent article here. Japan takes stock after heaviest rains for over 3 decades. Death toll tops 200. Rescue efforts following the Japanese floods have been hampered by high temperatures causing the mud to harden, while nearly 250,000 homes are also still without power after a week of torrential rains deluged the country. The Japanese government has vowed to quickly rehouse 7,000 displaced and has pledged an initial $12 million to the relief effort. The death toll has surpassed 200, and we predicted days ago 2,000 is the number. There is an added threat of disease and heat stroke due to the 35°C temperatures, lack of clean drinking water. This is dysentery heaven. The crisis is the deadliest weather-related disaster in 30 years and has sparked national grief. It is an undeniable fact this sort of disaster due to torrential, unprecedented rain is becoming more frequent in years, said the government's leading spokesman, Yoshihide Suga. And he's picking up what we're putting down, and that's cosmic ray flux, atmospheric compression, increased cloud nucleation, and biblical flooding, only going to be increasing over the next entire lifetime that you are alive. But we're going to really see the effects over the next 2 years as we descend into this solar minimum of cycle 24, the first minimum of the grand solar minimum descent, and the end of the interstadial, which is going to bring us back into glacial period. And those glaciers are going to begin building in Baffin, and we just showed you where a huge iceberg is sitting beached, which will last through the summer and cause ice to nucleate directly off of it. Big freeze cold weekend could set record for Gympie. And we're not talking that type. Brisbane may set for a chilly weekend, but predicted overnight lows of 6°C in the capital is nothing compared to what's in store for Gympie. The bomb forecast, the cold snap already felt around the region to continue for at least the next 5 days, with early morning temps of 2°C and possible frost, and tomorrow to contend for the year's record minimum so far. Read more, rug up, the weekend's going to be a chiller. The official bomb website has Gympie mornings falling to exceed 5°C until at least next Friday, averaging lower than the Bundaberg, Harvey Bay, and Brisbane, but not quite matching Kingaroy. Now, bomb forecasters Chris Joseph and Gympie could see a new record depending on the movement of the cold and dry winds. It will be a very cold nighttime through the middle of the week next week, Mr. Joseph said. Temperatures will be very close to the lowest of the year, depending on the cold air from the high pressure systems moving up from Victoria. Mr. Joseph said expected warm peaks between 21C and 24 were thanks to the sunny conditions and light winds, unlike the Antarctic patterns felt in the southern states. Heads up. That looks like frost there on the nippers. Yes. Here's the actual data. Location, Wellcamp Airport breaking all-time records, minus 6.4 C observed in the last 24 hours. Oki, minus 6.3 observed last 24 hours. Applethorpe, Dalby, Warwick, minus 4.9. Kingaroy, minus 4.5. Miles, minus 3.5. Coonagoona, minus 3. Amberley, minus 2.7. Greenbank, 0.07. That's a negative. Gympie, minus 0.3. And the gimpiest of all records being at Gympie. And that's a Gympie boom. Boom to the Gimpies. Iceberg tsunami warning, Greenland fishing village on red alert as locals gripped by fear. We showed you it on the live outtake. A massive iceberg bearing down on a tiny coastal village in Greenland has triggered a state of emergency as locals fear it could cause tsunami. We showed you a mini tsunami. We call it the tsunami-et. The tsunami boomet, which you could also call a swell now. Days before becoming grounded in shallow water on Thursday, this giant iceberg is absolutely sparking and heralding in the new glacial period on Baffin. The villager inhabitants have been told to evacuate and make for higher ground as the iceberg towers over the village's cliffside houses. Now, the 180 inhabitants that are currently running for their lives in their pants are concerned and afraid. Local politician Carl Peterson told CBC News. And that is a concerned and afraid boom. We're concerned and afraid for them as well because they're literally living where glacial inception begins. And that's Baffin Island. Now, this is an interesting paper coming out 7th February 2018. And that's science. Yes, indeed, kids, it is science. Glacial inception on Baffin Island. As a paleoclimatologist, I can confirm that we've been discussing this for decades, back into the 90s. The interaction of ice flow and meteorology is the key. And if you read the paper, it goes on to talk about the 100,000-year ice ages driven by the Milankovitch period of orbital perturbations. And it also talks about some very interesting facts. Now, glacial inception of the Laurentide ice sheet is thought to have progressed fairly rapidly in eastern Canada, starting at Baffin Island. And we're talking about the Wisconsinian glaciation, which peaked about 16,000 years ago. It was abruptly brought to an end during the Younger Dryas event, which we all know is cosmogenic. Yes, has nothing to do with global warming. Everything to do with the cosmos. Now, the sea level at this time dropped 50 meters, which is exactly the same point in time that we're located on now. So we would expect the next 100 to 500 years sea level to drop 50 meters as the ice builds. Come check out this paper and get yourself versed in glacial inception on Baffin Island and the interaction of ice flow and meteorology. Yes, that's a Baffin boom. M6.4 earthquake hits Vanuatu at intermediate depth as we predicted, hours after we predicted it. 6.9 initial registering from USGS downgraded to 6.4. There's the boom coming from the Blot Echo just here to the east on the same fault zone, over 560 kilometers of depth, reaching the surface at 6.4. We are looking for an explosion to happen in the next 3 hours in Kilauea at 5.3 or 4 magnitude. No other quakes of note worldwide. Seismic update. New fissure eruption at Piton de la Fournaise, Réunion. This is a shield volcano and it's acting similar to Kilauea with new fractures and new basaltic lava emanating regularly. This is not going to cool the earth. It's going to make for great headlines, though. New eruptive activity at Nishinoshima volcano in Japan. Nishinoshima is something to worry about. This is a stratocone, very young, Very violent. And we're just waiting for one of these babies to go big. A new eruptive activity is taking place at Japanese Nishinoshima volcano in Ogasawara Bonin Islands in the middle of nowhere. This is not risking lives. It's just making great footage with Japanese script. It's amazing. The Japanese Meteorological Agency reported a bright spot emerging in the middle of nowhere in Himawara 8 imagery. Yes, it's true. July 12th. In addition, a brown smoke was seen rising from near the crater from hundreds of miles away. According to the JMA, something must be afoot here. Well, you be the judge. Worldwide volcano news update. Kluchaska volcano, volcanic ash advisory, and an eruption happening today. Just moments ago, Krakatoa volcano, continuous eruption. Check it out at Volcano YT. We also have Ducono, Reventador, Sabancaya, Abico, and others. Whew. Here we are today, Agung erupting. I bet you don't see this on the mainstream. Now, check out the plume coming out the top here. It's just going to start to peak up here. There it is. And we'll blow this up and watch it live. This is a daytime eruption at Agung, Friday the 13th. Style. You can see the initial seismic blast down here in the bottom right. I'm circling it. Little interference here. And you can see the eruption now emanating high into the stratosphere. Come to the right here. We're at 375 meters, 750, 1125. And this is going to get up pretty high here. It's a slow eruption, but with amazing strength. And you could see the volcanic gas and ash around it and the weather this volcano is creating locally. What are you picking up? What we're putting down? Agung is shooting it up, that's for sure. New South African telescope releases epic images of the galactic center. Yes, you've probably heard about this. You're looking at the center of our galactic home, the Milky Way, as imaged by 64 radio telescope in the South African wilderness. Look at these Birkeland currents. This image is absolutely amazing. If you're looking for God, he's right here in the middle. This is the birthplace of galaxies. Look at these energetic balls emanating from the source. Birkeland current here coming through the middle. They're saying this is a black hole. This is anything but black or a hole. And I think that NASA and NOAA all deserve a big black hole from us. Right in the eye. There's no black hole here. This is absolutely the energetic center of the Milky Way, where the Birkeland currents are emanating and connecting to galaxies immemorial, infinitum. Throughout. One of these may tether right to us and may be causing the grand solar minimum as we speak. Some amazing pictures. Take a look at the center of the Milky Way. Absolutely amazing. And that's a boom. You'll get links to all this. Now let's talk about adaptive seeds, bringing biodiversity back. Check out this website. You can become a seed ambassador. You can do many things. Don't just get lost here in the beans. Come down here and check it out. Check out the blog. Check out Seed Ambassador Project, seedambassador.org. Check out job opportunities. There aren't any currently. Check out the Grower Network. Check out how to order. I'll tell you how to order in bulk. 1 pound, $14.80. Do it. You can keep your entire community alive for years. Then Seed Save, because these are not F1 hybrids. They're not GMO. Monsanto is not coming looking for you because the pollen blew over into your neighbor's yard. We're talking about heirloom, open pollinated, organic seed from the Pacific Northwest. Phaseolus vulgaris, green pod, 55-day bush snap bean, Cupidon. Code word, Cupid. Yes, shoot the arrow at me. I'm loving this bean. Bush snap bean, Cupidon, organic. We're getting this tip from a sub saying they're planting this all over the region. They're getting high yields, super delicious. Yes, not only is the finest filet bean we have found, but it's one of the best beans, period. Delicious, aromatic, sweet flavor, high yield, light green, stringless, long, slender. French filet type pods. Plants can get 2 feet tall if irrigated and fertilized. This is a bush baby. You don't have any trellis. You just plant the bean, water it, and walk away. Do it. If you're not prepping now, buy some beans. I have nothing to do with this site. This 1480 is for you and your family to survive and thrive in the future. Also to get your hands wet, bush beans are absolutely the best way to start gardening. They require nothing but 1 inch of depth in hardy soil and water. Do it. In 6 days, you got a bean plant. Whew. Let's talk about abundant harvest. Food security, growing your own food in uncertain times. Bill and Richard Porter. These guys worked very diligently on this book. It's $12.95. You can buy it now here. Now, this food security book addresses the need for groundbreaking, dramatically improved solutions for year-round and local food production. Cultivation techniques are drawn from the most successful market farmers in the world, along with remarkable new insights from agricultural specialists, which will geometrically improve crop yields. This essential guide explains the enlightened, biologically enhanced soil management practices that you've been looking for, novel protected culture greenhouses, and innovative planting harvesting devices that they've been researching their entire life to bring to you so you can survive and thrive in the coming times. Now, don't pay $12.95. If you do, you're an idiot. That's a boom. Add it to the cart, yes, like I just did, and apply the coupon code Harvest Boom. Capital HARVEST space capital BOOM and apply it. And it will just be $9.97. It is valid because we already used it. So use the Harvest Boom coupon code. You'll get it for $9.97 and start prepping now. Start prepping by buying a pound of those beans, those bush beans, and buy Abundant Harvest so you know how to plant those bush beans. Guys, I hope you got something out of the video. Real quick, we'll go over the data. Here are the 4 peaks. Last 3,000 years, global temperature has been dropping, regardless of what the mainstream is telling you. This is not the hottest time ever. This is hotter in the medieval warm, hotter in the Roman warm, hotter in the Minoan warm. 27, 28, 29. 30. Yeah, it's 3 degrees hotter back then. C. The mainstream is predicting a grand solar minimum. And Diamond, a paleoclimatologist that runs this channel that's speaking right now, is predicting the end of the interstadial, which means that the next glacial period begins now. What we'll see is glacial chunks build in Baffin, and ice will eventually not melt there over the summer. At that point, it's anyone's guess how quickly the onset occurs. It could take less than 100 years till total glaciation inundates the northern hemisphere. Most of us won't live that long. And it's the abrupt climatic swings that cause crop loss, global unrest, and famine that we should all be preparing for. Not to mention our waning magnetosphere. In the next few years, the sun is going to belch out an X-flare, which will begin to fry the infrastructure that you know as the grid. Technology is inedible. It will not save you. It may be available in limited quantities in the future, but learning how to grow food, be self-sufficient, is key to survive and thrive in the coming times. If you're not preparing now, you're preparing to fail. This is the mainstream prediction. Cycle 25 brings us back to Dalton Minimum, when there were riots in Paris, 10-inch hail that killed thousands, And the next cycle brings us back to the Maunder minimum. They ate babies. Be safe.